we have seen how to define continuity in an abstract manner. That is, if x2 is a topological space and yu is another topological space, and a connection f is said to be continuous at a point x naught in x, provided the following conditions are satisfied. We just look for f of x naught and consider a open set V, that is V is available in U. And if you are able to find out an U into, an open set in X containing X naught, and the entire U is going to be mapped inside this V. That is what our definition for the function f at the point X naught. The formal definition is like that. So in this manner, whenever you are defining, let us see various ways of understanding or characterizing this notion of continuity, because ideally it says that you at a point, it's a local property. Basically, continuity is a local property at the point x naught you are trying to say. So at the point x naught, whenever you are looking from x to y in the appropriate topological spaces, and at f x naught you have to work with. So taking an open set V, you are finding out an open set here which is completely going inside V. In terms of neighborhoods, one can rewrite it. In another sense, vaguely speaking, we are going nearer to x naught. F of x naught nearing values are also can be, through that values you can approach your f of x naught. So nearing conditions, nearing points are kept intact. That is the basic idea of continuity. Whenever you are trying to say about continuity, the nearness to a point is kept intact. It won't be mutilated. It won't blast out. So go nearer to x naught should guarantee that going nearer to f of x naught through that f of x values. So this kind of notion is known for us from the analysis and metric, more general metric spaces and all. So there are many ways of understanding this through neighborhoods, or we can just see any other variety, something, for example, closure is another idea. A closure, actually have seen that nearing points to it, such notions, or even the nearness condition if you are interested. All these are various ways of understanding continuity in different formats. Let us just quickly look at some characterizations. So just the above notations, that is, if you are taking x and y are topological spaces, obviously you can start with the tau, and the second one is U, the topological space, and f is a function. If you want to say that f is continuous at a point x naught, formally we note the definition. That is, any u, any v consider containing this f of x naught, you will be able to find a u containing x naught, and which will be completely sitting inside f of inside of v. That is what our definition is under the action of f. So that definition, if you are taking, that is 1. Then in terms of neighborhoods, we can talk about, because neighborhoods, see, neighborhoods, n is a neighborhood containing f of x naught. It just means that there is an open set containing this f of x naught and sitting inside n. That is obviously going to give the another idea. If n is any neighborhood of this fellow, then you just pull back, you'll be getting f inverse of n here. That also going to be a neighborhood. That is another way of understanding the thing. In fact, they are equivalent. Moreover, the third condition says all these things in terms of nearness. Closure. That is, you take any point A, whenever you are moving from x to y, and inside x you take a subset A, and if you know that x naught is in A closure means inside A as well as nearing to that. That is what it means. Then obviously that idea will implies that f of x naught is going to be inside the nearness of f of A, the image of f of A as well as the nearing points to that. Fourth one is obviously the relation, nearness relation, that guarantees. Once this understood well, the for condition is equivalent with that. Let us just quickly review how these proofs are going inside very rigorously. So one by one we'll check it. So the first condition actually says that assume f is continuous. Then first one is the inverse image of every neighborhood of f of x naught in y is a neighborhood of x naught in x. So our situation is like this. We have x, we have y, our function is f. Now some point x naught you are trying to talk about, that is mapped onto f of x naught. So start with a neighborhood, that is n. Just what is a neighborhood? Neighborhood means there should be a neighborhood of f of x naught. It means there should be a open set V inside n containing that f of x naught. That is what it's the neighborhood means. Now this V is enough for us. You just pull back that V. So what happens for this part is will come here. That is f inverse of V we can talk about. Right? So V is an open set. Once you are pulling back f inverse of V, we can say something about it. Moreover, this says that, see, we are assuming that f is continuous at x naught. This fellow contains x naught. So what is going to happen is your f of u, you have to find, see, any v here, you should be able to find a u, right, of x naught, which is entirely going to be inside v. That is what you are going to look at. So we will utilize that fellow. How to make it like that. So whenever you are talking in terms of this, we have our n, we have taken it back through an open set inside here. Now x naught, what we know, v is open. So our first statement allows us to say that a u exists, that is an open set in x exists containing that x naught, and this f of u is completely inside v. That is what is the definition says. So our f of u is going to sit inside v. Now x naught is in u, which is contained in f inverse of u obviously then. But this fellow is going to be sitting inside f inverse of v. What it says actually, n is a neighborhood here taken for f of x naught. You have looked at f inverse of n now. F inverse of n take care of x naught, and you are going to have an open set sitting inside, which says that f inverse of n is a neighborhood. That is what 1 implies 2. In fact, from there you can just go for 3. What was 3? The condition actually given through closures. These are the 3 and 4. 3. So let us look at 1 implies 2 is over. So 2 implies 3 we can look at now. So we have guaranteed that every neighborhood of f of x naught in y is, if you are looking at, and inverse is going to be a neighborhood again in x containing that x naught, that we know. So from there we have to reach at 3. You have to reach at 3 means you have x here, you have y here, and what you have to say that is 2 is assumed means this neighborhood condition is assumed. What you are intended to prove is take any a here, any set a here in x, take a point x naught inside a closure up to then all the nearing points to a. Then you should guarantee that f of x naught, if you are looking at, that should be not only in f of a, it actually says that f of a closure to that. Right, you have to see that. So assume that x naught is a point in a closure, which means what? F of x naught belongs to f of a closure. You have to prove, right? This is what you are trying to prove it. So for that, on the contrary, you assume that. Suppose this is not happening. which means f of x naught is not going to be inside f of a closure. What does it mean? So this point is not inside the closure of some set. So some neighborhood exists such that it is totally living away from that. So this means there exists some n of f, a neighborhood of f of x naught, such that n has to do nothing with f of a. But that guarantees what? See, n is a neighborhood of f of x naught. So just pull back these fellows. That is f inverse of these fellows. That is f inverse of n you look at. So f inverse of n, if you are comparing, f inverse of n, if I am just looking at what happens for the pullback of f of a, which means if I am looking at f inverse of f of a, right, this is going to be empty. That is what it says, right? So f inverse of n has to do nothing with f inverse of f of, right? But then what it guarantees? So this implies simply a has to do this part. If you are looking at a has to do nothing with f inverse of a, which says something more. So f inverse of n, that is going to be a neighborhood of x naught. That neighborhood of x naught has to do nothing with a, means it is not going to be in a closure. This is a contradiction to this part. So 2 implies 3. Now in fact 3 and 4 are equivalent because the nearness condition is exactly giving in terms of this. So 3 and 4, one can do it as an exercise. They are equivalent actually. But if you are assuming 3, one can quickly go for 1, which completes the cycle. That is what you are trying to look at now. So how to go along with that? Let us see. Assume 3. Assume 3 means A is a subset of X. X naught is in A closure. That should guarantee that f of x naught should be in f of a closure. That we know. From here you have to assume that f is continuous at x naught. If is continuous at x naught, it means you have to take an open set containing f of x naught, some v, then some u you should produce. F of u is completely sitting inside v. That is what we need. So here also one can just see the following. So we have the domain part, we have the codomain part. Start with some x naught here and try to talk about f of x naught. Take a v here. So you have to produce some u here on the domain part. Some u should be produced. F of u is completely sitting inside v. That is what we need. So look at, what you are trying to look at now is the following. See, pull back it. It is f inverse of v you look at. See, f inverse of v, it should lie here. And this f inverse of v is complement you try to look at. So f inverse of v, the complement on the x side, if you are looking at, complement behaves with f inverse well. So this is something like f inverse of v complement. C, vc stands for, the c, small c stands for the complement. So this is f inverse of v complement we look at. So if you are just denoting this as a, that is a is the set given by f inverse of v is complement, then what we can observe is the following. See, f of, see, a, if I am looking like this, what about action of f on a? Then f of a, see, a is f inverse of v complement. The outside part of that v, you are pulling it back. So f of a should be inside the v complement part. That is what it says. Which implies what? Which implies that f of a closure, if you are looking at, that is going to sit inside v complement closure. But v complement, v is an open set, v complement is closed, so this will be coinciding with v complement. That implies a little bit more. F of, you see, you look at your x naught. It's not in here in the left side. So f of x naught is not going to be sitting inside f of a closure. That is what it says, right? So f of x naught is not going to be sitting inside f of a closure. That is enough for us. Because what is our 3? 3 is x naught in a closure. It should imply f of x naught should be in f of a closure. What is the contrapositivity of this fellow? If f of x naught is not sitting inside f of a closure, that should guarantee that x naught is not inside a closure. Just use that. So this implies x naught is not in a closure, right? So x naught is not in a closure, which means there exists a neighborhood n, I can say, of x naught such that n has to do nothing with a. So n is completely living in the complement part of a. So what you can do now is n is a neighborhood of small x naught, which is just to do nothing with a. So what you are trying to look at is this n, that is a neighborhood. It may not be an open. So just look at its interior, n interior. Take that as u. So if you are writing down u as an interior, that is the right candidate for us. So that u, take care of your x naught, which is n naught, I mean interior of u, and which is going to be sitting entirely in V, which means your f of n is completely, f of u is completely inside V, which gives the condition that f is continuous at x naught. So 1 implies 2 implies 3, again implies 1. That cycle is over. Already 3 and 4 are almost the same, and we can work, we can take any of these conditions. All the statements are going to be equivalent. But remember, these are all, continuity is always a local property that you should remember well. Obviously, we can say something like this, as from our experience in the global picture in the metric topology and all. Whenever you are looking continuity at a point in a space, if at all points inside the domain it is continuous, call that continuous. That is the global nature of the thing. We can just say or define like that also here. So let us just work with that. A function f from x to y, if you are looking at, this is going to be continuous. You are saying that it is continuous whenever it is continuous throughout its domain. Such a definition will be helpful for us. That is the global way of looking at that. At each of its points, it has to happen. That is what we are trying to look at. It simply says that at every point it should be continuous. Now, that is, again, we can have so many characterization, equivalent characterizations one can just look at. So, these are some characterizations to say that f is continuous in a domain. So what we are having here is x is a topological space, a topology is equipped with tau, y is a topology equipped with u, we have a connection, a function from x to y. Then first condition says that f is continuous, which means you can take any of the definition recasted from the last proposition, because if it's continuous, it just means at every point x naught in x, it is going to be continuous, right? Now, second says that, so it's a global way of understanding the thing. Second condition or statement says that you take any open set V from Y, that is V is available in U, then pull back it, go for F inverse, it should be in 2. Any open set in Y, inverse image of any open set in Y should be open in X. That is what it says, nothing more than that. So F is continuous from X to Y. It simply means that take any open set in Y, the codomain path, just pull back it, that again is going to be open. But the fourth condition, just look at it, says the complementary idea. you take any closed set instead of A, instead of V, you take any closed set A, then pull back it, that is F inverse of A, that should be closed. So 2 and 4 are basically, see, once you are proving 2, that is going to be equal with 4, because that's a complementary idea and De Morgan's will help for us. So global wave, when you are understanding F is a continuous function throughout its domain, either these two conditions are very, very useful. Take an open set from the codomain, inverse, pull back it, that is F inverse of that fellow, you try to prove that it is an open set. Or on the other hand, you just take a closed set on the codomain part, pull back it, that again you say that it is a closed set. Now, in terms of the what it says about third and fourth is like that. One can determine or describe topology in terms of basis or sub-basis. So that's another way of understanding that. Basic one is sub-basis. So it says once you are wanted to say that F is continuous throughout in your X, just look at some basis. I mean, always sub-basis also exists. So it's equivalently says that some sub-basis exists for you, and you take any sub-basis, any element from here, you try to say that F inverse of that fellow is again open. That's all. So instead of saying that F is continuous, 2 actually guarantees that any open set in the codomain pullback is again open. But instead of that, either through base or sub-basis here, you can work with that. Any sub-basis element, you take it from the codomain and just to prove that pullback is, I mean, F inverse of that fellow is again going to be open. These are all very useful characterization to understand and work with problems and all. Finally, in terms of closure, if you want to say that, you look at the image of F of A, any subset from here you take, all the nearing points are inside, are described by F A closure, then just push it inside Y, that should keep intact. I mean, it will give the nearness. That is F of A nearing points you have to look at. So this is going to be sitting inside here. That is the last condition it says. So these are the equivalent conditions one has to work. These are very useful things to work with. We will just look at some of the ways of proving it. So first one, it says F is continuous, is equivalent that the pullback of any open set is going to be an open set here in the domain part. So 1 and 2 are going to be equivalent. See, F is continuous means F is continuous at each point. You have X, you have Y, appropriate topologies are given. You can take the definition or a direct definition, or you can take any equivalent characterizations. From here you have to just say that any pullback of an open set is again going to be open. So just look at a V here, pull back it. So how to pull back it? So F inverse of V should be here. That you have to say that it is open. That is what is 1 implies to. So look at any point here, x0 is in F inverse of V. You try to say that, see, x0 is an arbitrary point in F inverse of V. You try to say that F inverse of V is a neighborhood of x0, which means that, see, once you are proving that in a set, you have a property that any point is taken inside and that set is going to be a neighborhood of each of its point, that itself will say that the set is open. So let x0 be in F inverse of V. We will say that F inverse of V is a neighborhood of x0. But that is easy to look at. See, F of x0, if you are looking at, that is sitting inside V. V is an open set. So V is a neighborhood of F of x0. So once V is a neighborhood of F of x0, by the previous proposition, it guarantees through that way, it guarantees that F inverse of E is a neighborhood of F of x0. Which means what? F inverse of E is going to be a neighborhood of each of its point in general. So 1 gives you 2, because our neighborhood wise characterization will that. 2 implies 1 is obvious, because whenever you are moving from x to y, you are assuming 2. So it gives you 1, obviously, because x naught, if you are taking here and you look for f of x naught here and take any v containing that, just look at f of f inverse of v, what it happens. See, 2 you have assumed. So f inverse of v is an open set here. Take care of your x naught also. So f of f inverse of v is obviously sitting inside v. That is enough. You have an u here, which is just pushes inside that. So 2 implies 1 is very clear. So 1 and 2 are equivalent. In fact, what happens for 2 and 3? 2 and 3, if you are looking at, see, inverse image of an open set is open, that is 2. 3 says that you have to get that through subbasis. You can give this idea. So while moving from x to y the topology is u. Here we are taking the topology as 2. Some points you have to remember, and the things are very easy. See, whenever you are looking for a function f behaves well with set theoretic operations, not always. Because unions, intersections, as well as complementations, not all are compatible with the direct images. On the other hand, if you are looking at f inverse, that inversion always behaves well, which I wanted to say that if you look at something like f inverse of AJs, this will be obviously f intersection of f inverse of AJs. So f inverse of intersection will give you intersection of f inverses. They are compatible. This taking intersection and inversion are actually compatible. You can change it to union also. F inverse of unions also will behave like that. If you have this f inverse of union bi, that's also going to be equal with unions of f inverse of bi's. In fact, the last one is the complementations. If you are looking at f inverse of some set C I don't want to write, D complement, then that also behaves well with f inverse of D complement. So these fundamental ideas are very powerful. Basically, inversions will be much more, better way of behaving with unions, intersections, as well as complementation. These are the only ideas one has to use for this part. Now, just assume 2. 2 means any open set you can pull back to an open set. But that is from that part, 2 to 3 is very clear, because subbasis elements in the codomain part is always an open set. Take it back, it should be always open in X. So 2 implies 3 is very clear. What about 3 implies 2? 3 implies 2, we have to use that part. 3 implies 2 means X we have 2, Y we have the topology U, our connection is here. So from 3 to 2, how will you move? You look at a base for Y, for U, that is for Y. What we know is, take any open set V from here, an inverse is going to be an open here. That is open in X. That is what we know. So just take any V from U. But if you are looking at a V, an open set, that should be looking like in terms of base elements, you can write it down. That is, you can write it as unions of some I sign, right? Some indexing set I. Some unions of base elements will come. So VIs. What are VIs? VIs are in terms of subbases, you can write it down. So our VIs, we can write it in terms of subbasis elements. So I have to use double indexes. Finite intersection of subbasis elements. So this S1I intersection, etc., etc. Something like SJI. It has to end up with a finite in number. So depending on your I will be getting some Ri, may write. So some finitely many 1, 2, 3 up to Ri. Just take these intersections of, these are all fellows from my subbasis. This is a subbasis, this is a subbasis for you. So any open set here in Y, I can write in terms of unions of VIs, where each VI is looking like a finite intersection of subbasis elements. That is how topology is described in terms of subbase elements, right? Now, as I mentioned before, just look at the pullbacks. See, I have to say something about F inverse of V. So as I mentioned before, F inverse of V can be written as F inverse of unions of Vi. But this immediately says unions of F inverse of Vi's. But this Vi's are looking like this. So this part actually says F inverse of intersection of such fellows. So I have to talk about intersection of these fellows. So VIs are something like that. So I have to, finally I have to answer what happens for F inverse of Sji, where J is running over 1, 2, 3 up to Ri. So if I am looking for F inverse of Sj of I, what happens is they are all open sets here. They are the subbasis elements here. So F inverse of Sji, since this is a base element, it's guaranteed that this fellow is into, that is in open. There finitely many intersections I have to consider for this fellow. So I will get VIs. So each fellow's VIs are going to be open here. And I am again, through that way, I can rewrite this in terms of that. So taking these intersections as well as unions, I mean finite intersections and unions, they all lie inside tau by taking the full backs. I can guarantee that the entire V is inside tau, which means take any open set in Y, F inverse of that fellow is again going to be open. Basic idea is that. So this is this gives you 1 implies 2 and 2 implies 3, and conversely, I mean 1 and 2 and 3 are all equivalent. If you want, as I mentioned before, the fourth condition is in terms of closed sets. That also comes very nicely, because from X to Y, if you are moving, and if you know that any open set V, you pull back F inverse of V is open here. In terms of closed set also you can do. As I mentioned just before, F inverse of any set's complement is going to be F inverse of B complement. This is the fundamental idea you have to use it. F inverse behaves with complementation well. That is the only idea you have to use it. So just assume 2. So what I am trying to do is 2 and 4 are equivalent. That is enough, because 1, 2 and 3 are all equivalent. So how to do that? So let me write down more formally as, see, I am assuming 2. From there I have to get 4. So take any set A here. Let it be, sorry, I'll rewrite it, it's better. X to Y you are looking at. You take 2, you have assumed. From 2, how to get back your 4. That is what I am trying to look at. So what is happening is, from X to Y, I am taking a set A, which is going to be closed in Y. I have to say that whenever I am moving through the pullback, F inverse of A, that I have to say that it is closed. So A is closed. It is closed, I mean A is closed in Y, I mean. So this means A complement, that is Y minus A I am looking at, is open in Y. A complement is open in Y because of 2 is inversion, I can say about. F inverse of A complement is going to be open in X. But because of the behavior, of inversion, this says that F inverse of A complement is open in X. But once F inverse of some set complement is open, this implies the set is closed. So which means F inverse of A is closed. That is enough. So 2 implies 3. The version is also very similar. Assume that it is an open and you will get something like that. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, they are all going to be equivalent. What about 5? 5 is also almost just you have to use how the near A closure. I mean, we have proved the previous theorem or the proposition through that we have worked out how the behavior in terms of closure can be talked about. X naught is in A closure if and only if f of x naught is in f of A closure. So just use that fact and one can prove that that condition is also equivalent. F of A closure is again sitting inside f of A closure, which I am leaving it. So these are all very good conditions to understand or to characterize continuity. Whenever you are looking for continuity, many more examples one can try. Basic examples for continuous functions one can try. Obviously, constant functions, they are going to be continuous. In any topological space to any topological space, one can work it a good exercise like that. Let us discuss more about how to make new continuous functions out of the old.